Hello everybody. It is Coach Malcolm, and this is, I believe, my fourth video in my series where I solve mate and two puzzles. I haven't seen them before. I have no idea, what they consist of. I've only just set them up on the board, made sure I set them up properly, and then I solved them, right? So I'm talking about my thought process, looking for mating threats, and these are mate and twos, but it's not your basic mate and two. These are pretty tricky, specifically made to be pretty tricky. Mate and two puzzles. So if you haven't seen the other videos, you want a little more explanation, check those out. But today I'm going to be doing another video of this, trying to solve this mate and two for white in this position. You'll see I got my little mate and two marker right here. And yeah, so let's get to it. I'm just going to sort of be explaining my thoughts. First of all, it is true, right? We have all these, this position, I believe, if I had to take a guess, I'm not positive, I believe it's a study, which means it was created likely by a grandmaster or a very good player, and it's meant to sort of test out different mating ideas and just to be tricky, but it's not something that's, my guess is it's not something that's happened in the game because it's a pretty funky position. So obviously we have our bishop placed. Oh, and another thing about studies is that they are often, every single piece in the study, every single thing down to all these pawns on the board have a very particular purpose. There's some way going to help with a mate or some way going to make some variation not reasonable, whatever way that they, however they function. So, let's get into this. This is a mate and two for white. All right, so I've got my two bishops versus this rook. If we look at the squares around this king does have more squares than usual in some of these puzzles that I see, which is a little unusual, but it's not, a problem. It's still a mate and two. Obviously, the first move that comes to my mind is just a pawn promotion, right? It's the most obvious move. And again, guys, remember, I'm sure that we would all win our games when we promote to a queen. This king comes to d7. A mate and two here. In this position, something like queen e6 doesn't work. King d8. Queen f7, very similar thing. King d8. I don't see a checkmate in this position. I don't see how you can attack this king, without moving this queen off of d8. So I don't think promoting to a queen is the correct first move. But the point being, even though it's a mate and two puzzle, if we did promote to a queen, I'm sure that we would win this game. This would be an easy game to win, but the point is to sort of study calculation techniques, study mating nets and whatnot. So that's why we do have to let's just look for this mate and two, right? Let's give the puzzle what it wants. All right, so obviously a pretty peculiar position. I'm kind of interested to promote to a different piece for white. I think that would be something kind of cool to try out. I mean, the first thing I'm thinking, I don't even know if you're allowed. I think you are allowed to promote to two light squared bishops. I don't know how easy it would be to get checkmate here, even after just sort of a simple move. Rook d8, this king has a couple squares. I don't see how you could guard these squares. The problem with the pieces you have, I mean, it's a dark square bishop, a light square bishop. Obviously, we have our pawns to help us out, but it's hard to guard all these squares at once. So here, these squares remain open. So I don't think promoting to a bishop is maybe necessarily the right idea. Promoting to a knight would be nice, but we can't really go to f6 next move, quite obviously. So after something like king f7, again, I don't see, I mean, the only check we really have here is knight h6, which isn't going to be mate. So promoting to a knight doesn't really work. A rook, we're going to find the sort of same dead end we did, I believe, with our queen. So that doesn't work, unfortunately. So I'm looking at ideas as well to sort of do a bishop maneuver to bishop h5. So the problem with this, we have to guard these sort of particular squares first. King e6 I'm also noticing because we're threatening checkmate with either a rook or a queen promotion. If this rook got any moves, or if this pawn decided to move up, this is just going to be checkmate, quite obviously. So it looks like black's only move here is king over, and then I believe queen promotion is checkmate. Did we solve this puzzle already? And then maybe this isn't. I find these puzzles, just under sort of very difficult mate into settings. Maybe this is not our most difficult challenge, but king e6 does look like our answer. If you ask me, I don't know where this king could go besides d8, and then we could even promote to a rook if we want to. Why don't we check our answer with the system? All right, king e6 is going to be our answer. I guess this was sort of an easier version than before. So we're going to do another video, another puzzle in this video. All right, we've got our new position here. So that first puzzle, obviously, guys, I can't know how easy the mate in 2 puzzles that I find online that are supposed to be tricky are going to be, because like I said, the whole premise of this sort of series of videos is I have no idea what the puzzle answer is. But we've got another one here. I think this one should be more difficult, but obviously we are going to find out another. So let's get into it, right? Why not? This pawn is going in this direction, if you are wondering. Obviously we have a rook and a queen. There's not a lot of pieces on the board for this puzzle, which is kind of different from some of the other ones I've had where there's been a ton. So who knows, that makes it kind of easier and harder in that there's less pieces and less moves to consider for your opponent, especially, and for yourself, but also so much more space to utilize. There's a lot more moves that just can be employed. So what I'm looking at first is this move, d4, and the point of queen d4 is to guard this escape square g1. This bishop doesn't have a lot of options. My point is I'm trying to promote to either a rook or a queen. So let's say they moved anywhere. This king, okay, well, if the king moved to h2, then just promoting to a rook even is going to be checkmate. If this bishop moves anywhere, then also promoting to a rook is going to be checkmate, except for g2, because in the case of g2, it looks like after I promote bishop h3 is going to stop my mate in 2. Fine. Is this mate in 3? Absolutely it is. But we're not looking for a mate in 3. It's great that we found it, but it's not what we want. So is there any mate after bishop g2? It's not looking very likely. Black has h2 if I want to go anywhere like queen d1. King h2 is going to happen. Rook h4, similarly bishop h3 would happen. Just trying to get in the way of that. Alright, so queen d4, good idea, but not the answer that we really want right now. I'm looking at now queen to b2 is kind of an interesting move to look at. Now if something like bishop g2, obviously we have queen takes g2, which is just going to be checkmate. This king has no squares, so it's kind of up to this bishop to get something done. Maybe bishop e4 they could try to play here, because then if pawn push, bishop h7 is going to get in the way. Another just sort of annoying way to get in the position. Do I have a checkmate here? Doesn't. So this is a little tricky. Fine, they're trying to make it tricky, I guess. Here I don't think I have checkmate. Similarly, if I come down h2 for the king is still going to be a good option. I don't see a checkmate in 1 here. Maybe you guys do. I don't think I'm missing anything. We still have, we're going to get mate. We would get mate soon enough, but not in time. All right, so we tried queen d4. Now we tried queen b2. It looks like this puzzle is a little trickier, but I think that we can solve it for sure. All right, this queen diagonal is very, very attractive to me. So I think it is going to involve a queen move. I could be totally wrong. It could end up being a rook move. I don't expect it to be because this rook is doing a good job here. It doesn't seem like it would need to be moved, but I think it's a queen move because we want to have this h8 promotion threat. But we got to stop these 2 options right here. Those are our main options to stop checkmate, guys. Bishop e4 to hop on over to h7, or bishop g2 to hop on over to g3. So that is really the question, I would say. We could try something like, the problem with doing something like queen e8 is no, I don't even, this isn't even right. There's no, I don't have a point here. Queen e4, this isn't going to be checkmate. King h2 is going to work. Alright, so we need something here that stops or just makes bishop e4 and bishop g2 as a response. Just not a good response. A response that is not going to work well. And that is a little tricky. See, I have a good idea now. I think I may have got it. Queen a8, which looks a little counterintuitive. But after bishop takes, if they just took our queen, now we have our very fancy checkmate. And now what is, this is a great puzzle. This is our answer, I believe. Now bishop g2, this bishop is going to be really pinned. So once we promote, you cannot go to h3. But this isn't checkmate because king g1. Maybe this isn't the answer, folks. Oh, no, what am I talking about? Bishop g2, we're just going to take with queen takes g2. That's our checkmate right there. And this, I was confusing the 2 ideas. Bishop e4 is not going to work after h8. because now this bishop is pinned. It can't go to h7, but since it's not there, it's not on g2. This white rook is going to see through to g1. So I believe this is our checkmate. So that's sort of, I mean, we'll check in a second, but right, again, to reiterate our point, queen e8, we had to stop e4 and g2. So let's take a look, turn on our engine. All right, perfect. We have gotten it. Queen a8, no good options here. We can turn that off now. We know the answer. So I think this is important. You know, not trying to pat myself on the back or anything, but what I was doing, right, I'm going through the video, or I'm going through the puzzle, sorry, and first I look at, if you remember, queen d4, and we find, okay, bishop g2 is sort of unhelpful. It's hard for us to deal with. Okay, let's see how we can get over that. Well, we can try queen b2, right? Now that stops bishop g2, but it doesn't stop bishop e4. Well, now we found 2 ways that black can stop. We may have looked at some other variations, but now we found the 2 main ways black can really, you know, stop this checkmate from happening. King h2 never really worked, as we remember, because of this pawn push. We found the 2 ways that black can stop this checkmate, and what are we going to do about it? We're going to look for one move that can sort of stop both of those ideas. Queen a8. I mean, these puzzles, as you guys have seen, if you've seen the other videos, tend to be sort of weird moves that you wouldn't really expect to happen. We put this bishop in a pin, like we said before, if bishop takes queen, we can promote to a rook if we want to feel fancy. Bishop e4, this bishop is unfortunately pinned, unfortunately for black, and this is checkmate. It cannot go to h7 anymore, as our arrow quite helpfully points out. And then bishop g2, I was confusing it at first, but obviously here we just have queen takes g2. So these are sort of the thought processes that are really good for calculation, that are really good for puzzle solving, right? This is critical thinking. You sort of see the problem with the variation. You see how black can stop it. You see what your opponent, you know, even if they're not variations where it's so completely winning from one side, right? We don't need the mate in 2 to win the game here. It's helpful. It's the fastest way to do it. We don't need it. But this can be applied to tons and tons and tons of other positions in chess. Thinking about your opponent's, thinking about first your own threats, thinking about how your opponents can stop it, and then how can we get around those threats to win material, win games. So I'm glad this puzzle, it was a little trickier. It has some good lessons in it. Our first puzzle was a little easier. We got through both of them today. Happy about that. And maybe I'll post another video in this series. We shall see. But I will see you guys next time. All right.